Yo, we're finally back with another Rafa build. It took some time, but after all the testing and experimentation, I'm pretty happy to present something that's both fairly unique and powerful. This build makes use of a very powerful interaction that I don't see a lot of people talking about, and it's producing tons of damage for us. Especially in mobbing scenarios, it's an absolute blast for mobbing, and can use just about any decent gun due to the flexibility with various skill points we have.
So let's go over the main interaction of the setup before explaining our spec overall. In Rafa's blue tree, we have a skill called El Soldado, and at face value, it's just a pretty strong gun damage skill if you're going heavy into this tree. But what it doesn't tell you is that the second half of this, so the doubled portion while charging Apophis Lance, is actually the same gun damage you would get on something like an enhancement. So enhancement gun damage or SMG damage or sniper damage, it ends up multiplying with our regular gun damage skills like CDR and Temeraria. And the fact that it's a overdrive skill allows us to boost it even further with things like Shock, Soltado in the red tree, as well as our overdrive bonus from the Dancer class mod. And this is what's allowing us to do ridiculous amounts of damage in most scenarios, especially mobbing scenarios. You just kind of delete the game in mobbing scenarios. It's very fun. I want to give a special shout out to Lango for discovering this in the Girthquake Discord. Lango, if you're somehow watching this, I love you. As for the overall spec, we start with Rinse, which is a pretty solid reload speed boost. We're primarily using low mag, high damage weapons like JAKOBS, for example. So this is just a direct increase to our DPS. We then go Preparado for some solid action skill cooldown. As of recording, Lance still doesn't work with the Now with Caffeine specialization, so we have to source our cooldowns from other places like this skill. We then go El Centro, which makes pretty much all of our guns that we use laser accurate in combat. Positive gun handling skills are still reducing our projectile speed, but we're able to kind of counter that with Temeraria and the red tree due to it giving us negative gun handling. Eventually, for some reason, our guns just become hit scan with every shot, even with like insane stacks of this. I'm not really sure what the cause of it is, but it kind of alleviates the projectile speed issue. We then go metal management if we want to use certain outfires for bossing scenarios. Still very powerful with just 3 charges, but you can go with battery subscription servers for bossing stages as well if that's more comfortable. We grab Sangre por Sangre here, which is also giving us a large reduction to our cooldown, upwards of 75% when we consume all of our charges, which with Preparado ends up having our downtime. And between mobbing areas and places like vaults, you want to shoot off your fully charged lance to get the max stacks of this. And that allows us to get our lance back just in time for the next encounter. We then go El Soldado, as we explained in the opening of the video. It's our main source of damage, and it is a massive one. We go Brain Dump next, which is pretty good crit chance here, and it is an overdrive skill, so we're able to buff this to about 54% with just 3 points with Jacques, our Dancer class mod, and Soltado. And combined with the Piercer JAKOBS enhancement, we're able to get about a 74% crit chance on our JAKOBS licensed weapons, which is good enough for like basically guaranteed crits in most scenarios. You do still want to aim for the head, as you get the full bonus from things like Deadeye when aiming at critical hardpoints, but it just makes mobbing very fun due to the amount of crits we're getting. Now we grab Deadline, which is also a pretty substantial DPS boost due to the reload speed it gives us here. It's also an overdrive skill, so we're buffing this a lot. You can mess around with the point distribution between Deadline and Brain Dump, and if you end up deciding on using the alternative spec for the setup, which I'll get into later, you can put more points into both of these. But for this spec, you're probably wondering how we're stacking JAK without actually shooting our lance. And that comes from a skill known as Vitriol, which reads the first shot fired from every fully loaded magazine deals bonus corrosive damage. Now, it does exactly that, but this skill just happens to be skill damage, and JAK is able to stack off of dealing skill damage. So we're applying bonus element corrosive skill damage to our shots, and we're able to stack JAK basically instantly with our high pellet weapons, and that's just netting us more damage in general. So we go into Retry for that, which we grab City R, which is just more gun damage. Werga, which is our main source for action skill uptime. Like I said, we're going to be hitting tons of crits in combat, so this procs pretty consistently, allowing us to clear most encounters without worrying about our action skill going down. We then grab Sia. This is where the flexibility kind of comes in, depending on what shields you have. I am using an amp Watts for dinner, and with 5 points, I've been able to essentially keep the shield full during mobbing due to all the ricochet kills we're getting, which is allowing us to constantly have this 150% amp gun damage, which is netting us even more damage. Now you could put points into Maestro, which would end up buffing this, but I found going fully on the amp is just better overall damage, and it's just more fun to abuse things like amp. We then get points from our Dancer class mod in Temerario, which gives us tons of gun damage, also helps with the projectile speed issue that we suffer from Mouse Center as mentioned before, and it's also giving us Soltado, which is doubling all of our overdrive bonuses on kill, which is absolutely ridiculous for mobbing scenarios. We just one tap everything. If bosses spawn mobs in the arena and you're able to pick off one, you can basically use any weapon you want to kill the boss. Something like the TK's wave would absolutely shred with this active, but for our primary boss and weapons, we are using things like beam tossers, the Oscar mic, missile mode, and a few other options. So we have a pretty large arsenal of weapons we can choose from. Ideally, every weapon you get has a JAKOBS part on it as to work best with this build. The Looming Balor, a purple JAKOBS shotgun, is our primary gun for mobbing. Think of it like the stagecoach from Borderlands 3. We're able to crit very consistently due to the pellet count, and we destroy large areas of mobs with just one shot due to all of our ricochets. We have tons of reload for this thing, which makes it really fun, and with enough of it you can skip the animation entirely. It's also really good for using Vitriol due to it being a one-shot reload. The 7th Sense is also a great option. It's essentially a pocket sniper that we can spam away at targets. We often end up killing the enemies before its special effect can even happen. Not a one-shot reload weapon, but the mag is small enough for us to still get some good use out of Vitriol. The Bonnie and Clyde doesn't make great use of Vitriol here, due to outfiring modes from Daedalus parts being pretty wonky and not always working with the Vitriol bonus. But this thing has ridiculous DPS regardless due to its special effects, and we often one-tap enemies with the shotgun mode and mode down enemies in a split second with the assault rifle mode. It also reloads the alternating mode on kill, so it's very fluid in combat, and it's even more fluid if you're able to get a weapon swap speed passive on something like an enhancement. For dealing with vile enemies, we use the Sweet Embrace, which hits like an absolute truck on just about anything. It'll destroy all 3 of the vile crystals at once, as well as ricochet to nearby enemies with its rather large splash radius. It's very lenient in how you aim with it. It's very forgiving in that sense. You don't have to aim directly on enemies to one-shot them, so it feels really good to just kind of shoot in the general direction to deal with enemies. The Rainbow Vomit is also a solid option. for general mobbing and for bio enemies. If you want to use that instead, it works just as well. We also have the TK's Wave, which is not the most practical for general combat, but if you're comfortable with it, it will obliterate anything you faceplant into. And you can also use a Torg impact version to deal with bio enemies if that's more your style. We have some sniping options, most notably the Ballista. Due to the unlisted projectile count that it has a COV max, so we can't use Vitriol on it, but the damage is already enough as is. We can also use the Boom Slang, which is very, very fun, I must say. A bit less forgiving if you miss the shot, but we're able to spam its unique effect by just spam reloading our weapon, so we're just ricocheting additional stickies everywhere. You just have to hit your shots more often with this one. The truck is also a solid option. I don't know what the special effect does for this. It just seems like a really hard-hitting JAKOBS sniper that you can use for most scenarios. So if you just want to use something pretty chill, definitely go for this. It just hits really hard. The Hot Slugger is also a solid option. Just a really strong weapon. I know it's really popular, so I didn't really want to talk about it too much, but it works with the setup. You can go with the Hellwalker, which I don't have on me at the moment. Unfortunately, it is fire-locked, but it has a very fast reload, so it's pretty fun to use. And we have enough damage to make up for the fact that it's fire-locked, so it definitely works. If you're feeling evil, you can use the Armored Bod, especially with a secondary sniper rifle mode. This gun just kind of works with anything, and it's kind of silly how accurate it gets with all of our accuracy and handling, so you can definitely use that if you want to. A couple of honorable mentions I won't dive too deep into are the Anarchy, just really strong choice. You might down yourself with it, but it does hit really hard. The Chuck is also really fun for mobbing. You can just spam them like crazy and dish out tons of damage. And this uber specific Vladov JAKOBS dataless shotgun sniper thing I found, incredibly fun, super hard to find probably, but if you can get anything like this, it'll work really well with this setup. Our bossing weapons primarily consist of beam tossers from Malawan shotguns. They just hit really hard and are very spammable with meta management. We can also use energy discs, which are pretty good, not as strong, but they work. And the Oscar Mike Space Laser firing mode. This thing gets the full amp bonus from things like a rep kit or if you have an amp shield, and it just melts everything. The firmware is Deadeye, great crit. Our guns are going to be very accurate, so this is a no-brainer if you're hitting those headshots. Heating up for more reload speed. This just helps our DPS by a lot, especially with our JAKOBS weapons, and the same for Oscar Mike. Just more reload is always good. You're going to go for fire rate bonuses as well, depending on the guns you're using, but we're going reload here. The choice of rep kit for this setup is one with the accelerator cooldown part on it, paired with 2 charges from it being in order rep kit. We want to stack as much cooldown as we can to compensate for the fact that now with caffeine does not work with Lance. Things like amp damage boost, splash damage, or movement speed are also nice choices to pair alongside it. The Dancer class mod is also our primary class mod of choice. It's just perfect for this setup due to El Soldado being an overdrive skill, 1 point in Soldado, and as many into Temeraria as you can get. Things like crit damage and action skill cooldown rate are really good passives for this setup. The What's for Dinner, once again, is our primary shield. Bonus elements are just incredibly strong in this game, and it's very easy to maintain in combat. Depending on your shield roll and playstyle preference, you can change around points in the red tree to better work for you. I like taking advantage of the amp, so I like to use max points in Sia, which is the restore shield on kill based on your health. The Protean Cell is also an option for bossing if you'd much prefer that. You can also use it for mobbing if you're brave enough, but you'll probably die a lot more, which isn't ideal for this setup or any setup. The Super Soldier is also a worthy contender, especially if you want to use a more bullet hose setup due to its fire rate and ammo regen and movement speed, if that's more your style. For this setup, you would take points out of Rinse from the blue tree and put them elsewhere into Las Haras, which will give us ammo regen. We would remove all of our points from Vitriol in the red tree and allocate them in skills like Brain Dump or Deadline. Additionally, we wouldn't be able to stack Jock without Vitriol, so we would dump those points into the Thrill, Deft Hands, El Valiente, and even Resiliencia if you wanted to. Generally, you're very flexible with how you can allocate certain points, and any decent high mag fire rate weapon will work on this setup. Lastly, the Specializations. Ryu this is just a very easy gun damage boost to get. It stacks incredibly easy on our setup, so it's pretty much always at 50 stacks during combat and in bossing. It's just very, very good. We then go Bullet Train, which is a very nice bonus. We're able to get decent movement speed on the setup. Unfortunately, we can't sprint while Apophis Lance is charging, but we get enough movement speed from Overdrive in and of itself, which kind of makes up for that, so it's still a reasonable amount of damage. If you want, you could move some points into Expedite, which is the movement skill in the green tree, to better utilize this, and just zoom around more if that's more your style. We also go Bullets Are Scared of Me, which gives us a pretty solid damage reduction boost based on our shield or health. Our shield is bigger than our health most of the time, and we're able to keep that full due to Sia, which is keeping our shields full. So this bonus is at maximum use or close to it most of the time, and the same applies for the best defense. If you are using single pellet weapons with no extra added projectiles, you can also use one shot, one kill. It pairs pretty well with JAKOBS snipers, JAKOBS pistols, and anything that is kind of a one pellet weapon. Order snipers are also great. Order pistols are also great, especially with JAKOBS parts and torque sticky or torque impact parts rather. So you can definitely mess around with that. It's totally an option that's just as valuable. And that about wraps up the video. I want to thank anyone who made it this far into the video. It goes a long way for me, so I appreciate that. And if there's anything I've missed or any questions you have in regards to the build, feel free to ask me in the comment section. I'll try to do my best to respond to everyone as best I can. And if there are any specific Rafa builds you'd like to see in the future, do let me know, and I'll see if I can whip something up for y'all. Once again, thank you for watching the video, and take care.